Sri Radha Krishna Bho Gopinath Sam Kanda Radha Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadip Dham ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai, Dwarka Dham ki jai, Swami Bhakti ki jai, all glories to the all glories to the Thank you very much. Jai Radha Madhava Punya Bihari.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, you're welcome to today's Bhagavatam class. Bhakti Vaibhava. I think maybe Prabhu must have tried 1 or 2 times, and he couldn't come in because I came in a little bit late. I'm trying to get in touch with him now. So while we wait for His Grace Advaita Krishna Prabhu, so I'll play some bhajan and we wait for his coming in. Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you, my great Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Krishna Kirtana Ganana Karnapa Premamrita Vanidhi Vira Garo Nimar Rang Pujito Sri Chaitanya Kripa Bharau Bhuvi Bhuva Bhara Tarakau Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujugo Sri Jiva Gopalakau Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujugo Sri Jiva Gopalakau Krishna
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, welcome. I'm sorry, Prabhu. My video will be off for like a few minutes. I'm just trying to land up on the other.
Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshurinmiritam Yena Tasvai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Sapatantikam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sannavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Vrandaraja Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Darotam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhiraye Nastapriyeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Shri Shnita Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Okay, so not possible to get your videos on Sunday. What's happening? Tamal, Jyoti Swarup, and Shalika.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I am actually driving. So I just asked permission from Prabhuji. Within 10-15 minutes, I will be on video back.
Hare Krishna. Jai. So today we're going to carry on with the discussions of the questions that has been asked by Vidura to Maitreya Rishi in relationship to the process of creation. So we have discussed text 25. Now we're going to look at text 26. Actually 26 on to 37 today. And the verses 23 to 37 describe the process of creation. And the groundwork for that is laid in the text 23, 24, and 25, which we have discussed in terms of a general philosophical presentation. So what I shall do is I will read the text 23, 24, 25, just to reconnect. And then we shall carry on describing from the text 26. So please take notes, and these things are a little bit tedious to understand, but it's very nicely elaborated, and I will be sending another PDF a bit later today. So in the text 23, Bhagavan eka ashiddam agra atmanatmanam vibhu atmichanupatav atma nanamati upalakshanaha. The personality of Godhead, the master of all living entities. They existed prior to the creation as one without a second. You may all recall we actually discussed that. It is by his will only that creation is made possible, and again everything merges into him. So this explanation of this verse in the purport stems for Srila Prabhupada explanation of the text 33 of 2nd Canto, chapter 9, which is the text, first text in the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Aham evasam evagre nanyad yat sadasat param paschadaham yadetacha yo vashishyeta susmiham. So means that the Lord always there, one without a second. When nothing else existed, he existed. When everything else is destroyed, he still exists. So therefore, that in itself becomes a text that describes the Lord as being the original, primeval person that exists all the time, for all time's sake, so to speak, and in all circumstances and in all situations. That would therefore make him as being the source or the karana, the cause of all causes. So text 24. So in essence, you can actually take that to be the original existence of everything, the absolute truth from which everything emanates, which is a very explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam text 1. Okay, Satyam Param Dhimahi, the supreme absolute truth. So text 24 now, say Shravayesha tadha dhrishta napasya drishyame karat mene santam ivatmanam shupta shakti ashupta drik. The Lord, the undisputed proprietor of everything, was the only seer. The Lord, the undisputed proprietor of everything, was the only seer. Means that he could see everything that was there. And everything else. Now, why is a term and this description of seer here? His drashta. That everything that will be created, therefore, he will be the overseer. He is the one only conscious being who can oversee and who can also see. And thus he felt imperfect without his plenary and separated part and parcel. So at this point, we discussed the word he felt imperfect. The Lord is never imperfect, but he felt imperfect, and we discussed that in terms of not tattva. He is complete in itself. From him, everything else generates, and the expansions of the Lord generates as complete wholes. The universes generate as complete wholes, and all the living entities becomes part and parcel of him. And therefore, he wants to enjoy rasa. So from that angle also, we can understand that the Lord is not full or perfect in that sense, but he's always perfect. And we can reconcile that only by understanding the Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, that he can be both simultaneously. And to reconcile that is not easily understood by mental reasoning, because it is inconceivable. So the process is to relate it to the Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva philosophy of Lord Chaitanya. So now text 25, the Lord is a seer and the external energy which is seen. So the external energy here is a seen. He is secondary to the Lord. Works as both cause and effect. But the external energy, which is Shakti, in itself, it is empowered to act secondarily to the Lord, both as secondary cause and then effects generated by itself. So, O greatly unfortunate Vidura, the external energy is known as Maya or illusion, and through her agency only is the entire material manifestation made possible. So then, the Lord as a seer or the overseer will infuse at subsequent levels his energy through, we will see, through his glands. That's why the word seer is being used. So he'll subsequently, successively, he will infuse his energy into the process of creation as it will unfold. And he is aloof, but he is the seer. And by his glands, things, the cosmic manifestation, and things as we see to have evolved gradually and successively. Does that make any sense to you? Right? I'm going a bit slow and carefully using the right terms and words so we can get a picture. So then he says, oh, greatly fortunate Vidura, the external energy is known as Maya or illusion, and through her agency only is the entire material manifestation made possible. Okay, someone has the arms up, hands up. You have your hands up, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. When describing this, you talked about the cause and effect, Krishna being the cause and effect of all creation. And I've had in a different lecture that Krishna is the cause, but it's not the effect of all activities that manifest in the material world. For example, the living entity is said to be the cause of his action. So therefore, that is why Krishna is not the cannot be fault, because if the living entity is not the cause of his action, material nature is the cause of action, and ultimately by Krishna, then the living entity doesn't have to be said to be committing sinful activities. But because the effect is not Krishna, Krishna is the cause. So, but now in this case, you have just explained that Krishna is the cause and effect. So please, could you elaborate on that so that we can get it?
In the sense that the Prakriti we are talking about on a higher level at this point, not on the level of the karmas, on a higher level at this point, when the jivas are not entering into any subsequent actions, they will become secondary doers. But right at this point, the primary doer and the one who empowers everything prior to the secondary doers entering into action is still the Lord. So when he creates Prakriti, when he actually infused Prakriti becomes the primary cause, and then causes, and then effects are generated. But for the effects of development of the, for example, the sense objects and the different elements, the Lord, you will see that the Lord is a cause. So when it comes to the karmas, that's a different thing.
Okay. Understood.
Because at this point in time, the jivas are impregnated right from the beginning, yes, but they are not entering into action. They only have the desire for. Anyway, we will come to that. You will understand it a little bit further down. But yes, when everything else is set into action, then the secondary doers, right, will become in the whole scheme of creation will become the jivas, and they will be given a certain range of freedom to act, and therefore they will become responsible. But then in the scheme of universal cosmic manifestation, the setup is under this supervision or superintendence of the Supreme Lord. And then he will empower Prakriti. And then Prakriti will become the cause, and Prakriti will generate the effects as well. Till the point
so we can say, in essence, in a summary for a practical understanding, that the business owner, he dreams, he visualizes, he creates, he starts a business, he employs workers. He employs different workers to manage certain different activities in the work. He employs these workers also. But the moment he has set up everything, the manager working under his supervision and the workers becomes responsible for how they do their activities. But he is the cause and effect from the beginning because he sets everything up. Can we use that?
Yes, because he sets it for the jivas. The jivas don't set it for themselves.
Okay.
And he sets it in a way that it generates effects. So he becomes effectively both the cause and effect right from the beginning.
Interesting. Thank you.
Please, in that wise.
Give me a minute, Prabhu. I'm actually in great in pain. It just got worse. My tooth is not getting better. Just give me some minute. I just take a drink.
Okay, Sarika Prabhu.
Yeah.
I think in that wise, can we term the Lord as the primary cause and effect of the existence? And then the jivas become the secondary cause and effect of all actions.
Exactly. That was why I give that example, because sometimes it is misunderstood. Because the business owner, he generates the business. He talked about it. He puts it in place. He employs the manager, and he employs workers also. And then he gives the manager the instruction on how the company should function. Then he gives the job descriptions to the workers also.
Yeah.
Now he allows
let us understand a little bit more, and then you will see at what point we can see that the jivas become effective in generating effects. Okay, let's just do that for now. Okay.
Just a minute.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Madhuvan, what is your question, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This issue of Maya in this text is described as the external energy known as Maya or illusion. Is it the same? Is it the same as as the Maya that Krishna that enables Krishna to perform his pastimes in this material world. The
It's
Yoga Maya.
Prakriti.
I don't know if
Yes.
as Yoga Maya.
It's Lord, originally it is Karunadakshaya Vishnu's consort called Rama. And then from there you have the external energy called Maya, which is a Bahiranga Shakti, the external energy. Let's just keep with this thing for now, otherwise we will lose a thing and then we will answer more questions later. So text 26. The Supreme Living Being, in his feature as the Transcendental Purusha Incarnation, who is the Lord's plenary expansion. The Supreme Living Being, as his feature as the Transcendental Purusha Incarnation, who is the Lord's plenary expansion, impregnates the material nature of free modes, or you can say the material nature comprising of free modes. He impregnates material nature comprising of the free modes, and thus, by the influence of eternal time and living entities, the living entities appear. Right? So there is something that cause and effect right at the beginning. We will look at that. That's why I use that explanation. So I will show or we'll just read the purport first. I'm trying to find the simplest way to make sure that everyone understands. Let's read the purport. Okay, the offspring of any living being is born from the father. After the father, the offspring of any living being is born after the father impregnates the mother with the semen. Let's read carefully. And the living entity, the jiva, floating in the semen of the father, takes the shape of the mother's form. Similarly, Mother Nature cannot produce any living entity from her material elements unless and until she is impregnated with living entities. Similarly, material nature cannot produce any living entity from her material elements unless and until she is impregnated with living entities as the Lord himself. So that is the mystery of the generation of living entities. What can we see from there? That the Lord is a primary creator of the body that will be infused in the mother, so to speak. Without the impregnation of the jiva, the shape of the body in the mother's womb will not take place. So then the mother, after the jiva enters the womb of the mother, in general sense we are talking, then the body will develop. So that is how Prakriti will take over, so to speak, the development of the embryo or the living entity that will develop in the body of the mother. So that's a practical comparison here. So the impregnating process is performed by the first Purusha incarnations. So for all intents and purposes, we can understand something very simply here, that the Prakriti as a womb of cosmic creation has ingredients infused in them, or has the potentiality of developing, but it has to wait for the impregnation of the first Purusha incarnation, which is Karunodakshaya Vishnu. And how does he impregnate? Simply by his glance over material nature. The whole matter is accomplished. Simply by his glance over material nature, the whole matter is accomplished. Then Srila Prabhupada talks about the glance of the Lord. What does that mean? Now, we should not understand the process of impregnation by the personality of Godhead in terms of our conception of sex. So Prabhupada is making a very important statement. It is not like we have seen impregnation in the material world to be like. So the omnipotent Lord impregnates just by his eyes, or rather just by his glance, and therefore he's called all-potent. Now, the glance of the Lord is very powerful. The glance of the Lord is powerful. There is Shakti in the glance. Now you may think, well, how come? Like, for example, if someone is sitting and you are sitting a little bit at the distance, what's happening here? Okay. Okay. If someone is sitting and you're sitting at a distance, and if someone has their, can you just stabilize everything here? Or we give you time for everyone to be here? Chitra, are you there? Okay. So someone is eyeing you like that. After a little while, if he carries on eyeing you like that, you will realize that there's someone looking at me. Because the person's...
Yes, please, I'm here.
So say, for example, you know, if someone is walking down the road and you're looking at that person, he will feel, he will see in a subtle way that there's someone looking at him. And for example, the glance of a father upon his child convey a message. Depending on the type of glance, if it is a smiley glance, then the child will see, okay, my father seems pleased with me. And if the glance is stern and is very severe, then this child will think, oh, I feel a little bit afraid. I don't want to go near him. He seems. So the glance carries power. Anyone's glance carries a certain amount of power. And devotees who have been in close proximity of Srila Prabhupada, they will tell you that sometimes Prabhupada would look at some devotees that would be enough to make him shiver in anxiety or in fear. Right? You may also have had that experience with your own spiritual master. Just one glance was enough to put you straight. So the glance of a person has incredible power. So what to speak of the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So the potency of the glance is therefore explained here. And therefore he is called all-potent because of the potency of his glance. Each and every part of his transcendental body can perform. That is explained in Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vriti Mantra. Right? So Brahma Samhita explained that one of his senses can do the activities of the other sense. Krishna can eat with his eyes. Krishna can do actions with his other senses rather than his arms. So when the cosmic creation is manifested, so here this is confirming Brahma Samhita. So in Bhagavad Gita also, the same principle is confirmed. Mama yonir mahad brahma tasmin garbham dadamiham. When the cosmic creation is manifested, the living entities are directly supplied from the Lord. They are never products of material nature. So that's one thing. Is where does the jiva come from? They're supplied from the Lord. When there is a dissolution, then they are all assembled within the body of the Lord, under the care of the Lord. And because the creation is a cycle of the cosmic manifestation is a cycle of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. Within that cycle, there are time intervals when there are no creation, and the jivas stay with the Lord. So then they are provided, they are supplied to the Prakriti by the Lord. So here it says it is explained, when the cosmic creation is manifested, the living entities are directly supplied from the Lord. They are never products of material nature. Thus, no scientific advancement of material science can ever produce a living being. So Prabhupada, in his usual, manner. He's making sure that we know this point. Thus, no scientific advancement of material science can ever produce a living being. That is the whole mystery of the material creation, that the living beings are supplied by the Lord. So the science community, the science people will try to manipulate matter, chemicals, biochemicals, biological materials, but they will not be able to produce life just from materials, because the jivas are supplied by the Supreme Lord. So that's why we say life comes from bio. So the living entities are foreign to matter, and thus they cannot be happy unless they're situated in the same spiritual life as the Lord. The mistaken living being, out of forgetfulness of this original condition of life, unnecessarily wastes time trying to become happy in the material world. The whole Vedic process is to remind one of its essential feature of life. The Lord offers a conditioned soul a material body for his so-called enjoyment, but if one does not come to his senses and enter into spiritual consciousness, the Lord again puts him in a manifested condition. So we are given the opportunity of a body in the cosmic creation, in the process of cosmic creation. And the reason we are given a body is so we can use the body to actually extricate ourselves from the material creation. And if we don't do that, then we may be given another chance and another chance and another chance in cycles. So text 27. Tato bhavan mahattattvam avyaktat kala choditat vijnanat manatma dehasta vishram vyangjang stamonudha. Thereafter, influenced by the interactions of eternal time, the supreme sum total of matter, called the Mahatattva, become manifest. And in this Mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord sowed the seeds of material manifestation out of his own body. So now, in the previous verses, there is no mention of the word pradhana, but that we will understand that the let me check just in case. Yeah. So we will share the screen here. But unfortunately, he's disabled me from sharing screen. So maybe someone can. I need to be able to share screen, Salika. Salika Prabhu. We won't understand much without me sharing a picture. Can someone call him up and tell him?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I'm trying to call him.
Hare Krishna. Jyotish Prabhu, I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, I have to share screen.
Okay, I've given you to it, Prabhu. Sorry, I'm just rounding up. I'll be fully with you.
So can you all see this? Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can see.
Okay. So this is what it's summarily explained here. So Karanodakashai Vishnu, lying in the Karana Jal, then his glands, he impregnates the jivas into material nature with kala, time, and the jivas. So his one glance is kala, and his other glance is he's impregnating the jivas. But the jivas come in with the karmas and the swabhava. What is the karmas? Means their reaction to all the previous karmas, to the previous action they have performed. Because the karma for them is still there, which was carried forward from the last creation. And what is swabhava? Swabhava is acquired nature. The acquired nature means that they have reached a certain level of spiritual development. And that is also with them. Say, I give an example. Say, for example, at the time of the last dissolution, someone is a Brahmana in a particular temple, and someone is an animal in a particular jungle. Then from the time of the next creation, they will start from where they left. So the Brahmana who has acquired that particular nature to do worship in a temple, he will take it from there. And the tiger or the animal in the jungle, where he is in the process of spiritual evolution and he's reached the position of an animal at that time, will be acquired nature, he will take it from there. So I hope you understand this. Then what he does is he impregnates with his glands. This is a glands, this blue arrow is a glands of the Lord. Then these jivas and kala is now the glands of the Lord onto pradhana. At this time, here material nature has a free modes, but they are in equilibrium, they are unmixed. They're unmixed, they're in equilibrium. Just like the mother may have the potentiality of developing an embryo, but without the impregnation, the mother cannot develop anything. So everything is there, but it is not mixed. But for the mixing to take place, the modes have to become active and the equilibrium has to be disturbed. And therefore they are considered to be unmixed. So once these modes become active, then this pradhana, which is the sum total of material energy here, which is the same here, but here it is considered to be Mahat Tattva, because now it is already in motion. It is in frequency of not in equilibrium, but it is now in sort of gestation, so to speak. It is now in a stage of movement, and the modes become active. So what is the difference between material nature pradhana and material nature mahatattva? It is just a stage now of development, of moving forward, where the modes becomes active. In pradhana, everything is in equilibrium. And by the impregnation of time, factor, kala, and the impregnation of the jivas, the living entities, weave their karmas and swabhava into pradhana. Now pradhana becomes agitated, and at this stage it is still material nature, it will always material nature, but at a stage where we call it mahatattva predominantly, and this is predominantly in tamas. Now then, from mahatattva is generated, mahatattva in sattva, not in tamas here. Okay, in sattva, this is a mistake. Predominantly in sattva, not in tamas. Sorry about this. Okay, this you can correct. I'll correct it later on. So here, then ahankara, which means ego, comes in. The state here of mahatattva further transforms into ahankara, which is predominantly in tamas. Now here the state produces free energies called the Jnana Shakti, the Kriya Shakti, and Dravya Shakti. Because now the modes are starting to compete, they're starting to manifest in free phases of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So here it is in equilibrium. Now here they're starting to manifest, and they start to become differentiated in goodness, in passion, and ignorance, and there's always competition of the modes of material nature. So I will read now text 27, which I've read actually, so you can relate to the picture. Okay, so thereafter, influenced by the interaction of eternal time, which I've seen here in here, okay, the supreme sum total of matter called the mahatattva, which is here. Now this, and in this mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, and in this mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord sowed the seeds. So this mahatattva is unalloyed goodness. That's what I'm saying, predominantly in sattva. It is in sattva. This has to be removed, but this is PDF, I cannot do that. And in this sattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord sowed the seeds of universal manifestation out of his own body. When he's impregnating his seed, it is at this stage. And when we look at this stage, it is already has the seeds in it. And it is now called mahatattva. And therefore now we move on to the next part. So let's read the purport. In due course of time, purport to text 27. In due course of time, the impregnated material energy was manifested first as the total material ingredients, which is pradhana. The total material ingredients here is pradhana. So it's impregnated here as pradhana. Everything takes its own time to fructify. That's why the Lord allows time, kala, in there. Because without time, nothing works. So time is the external representative of the Lord in material nature. So that's why he comes in first. So he says, so when the time of creation comes, then the Lord glands open the material nature with his glands of time, so to speak. which becomes his external representation in the material world. So everything takes its own time to fructify, and therefore the word kala choditat, influenced by time, is used herein in the text 27. And what is a Mahatattva? Prabhupada describes it here. The Mahatattva is a total consciousness because a portion of it is represented in everyone as the intellect. So the total consciousness is called here Mahatattva. And a portion of the Mahatattva is represented in everyone. A little bit complicated, but just bear with it. The Mahatattva is directly connected with the Supreme Consciousness. So a small portion of that consciousness is given in everyone. So the Mahatattva is directly connected with the Supreme Consciousness of the Supreme Being, but it still appears as matter. The Mahatattva, or shadow of pure consciousness, is a germinating place of all the creation. Right? And this is called the Chitta. It is called the Chitta. So, the Mahatattva, or shadow of pure consciousness, is a germinating place of all creation. It is pure goodness with a slight addition of the material mode of passion, and therefore activities generated from this point. So here, activity, which means Kriya Shakti. So text 28. Thereafter, the Mahatattva differentiated itself into many different forms as a reservoir of the would-be entities. The Mahatattva is chiefly in the mode of ignorance, and it generates a false ego. So Mahatattva here, predominantly with tamas, generates the ego. It is a plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with full consciousness of creative principles and time for fructification. So we'll read the purport. The Mahatattva is a via medium between pure spirit and material existence. It is a junction of matter and spirit, wherefrom the false ego of the living entity is generated. All living entities are differentiated parts and parcels of the personality of Godhead under the pressure of false ego. The conditioned souls, although parts and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, came to be enjoyers of material nature. This false ego is a binding force of material nature. The Lord again and again gives a chance to the bewildered conditioned souls to get free from this false ego. And that is why the material creation takes place at interval, like we explained prior. He gives the conditioned souls all facilities for rectification, for rectifying the activities of false ego, but he does not interfere with their small independence as parts and parcel of the Lord. So we will read the text 29. Mahat Tattva, or the great causal truth, transforms into false ego, which manifested in three phases: cause, effect, and doer. And I put it here: the cause, the effect, and the doer. All such activities on the mental plane and are based on the material elements, gross senses, and mental speculation. The false ego is represented in three different modes. So then, false ego mixing with the mode of goodness produces jnana, knowledge. And false ego mixing with the mode of passion causes the doership principle, the kriya, and false ego in the mode of ignorance generate, mixing with the mode of ignorance, generate the Panch Mahabhutas, the Karya Shakti, the Dravya Shakti, the generation of substance. Here it is a generation of intelligence. Here the generations of elements. Here the generation of the senses and the sense devatas. So it's all in that picture, and I think that will help you a bit more. So this is, now if you have any questions, we can, I'll take that. I think you might have it in front of you because you've been sent. So if you have some questions relative to what we've discussed, and we have to make an endeavor to stay within the parameters so that we can actually understand, then I will try to answer at this point. Yes, Tamal Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, I want to ask and you to elaborate for me the test 27. Can I have conscience? I want to know.
I don't understand your question.
That in the before you said about the Brahmana, the animal.
Okay.
Yes. So I want to know the difference between animal.
Swabhava. I talked about the Swabhava. So when a cycle of creation starts, it is not the first time that the cycle of creation is starting. It's a cycle. That means that it was there before. There was a cycle of creation, maintenance, and destruction. And prior to that, there was another cycle of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Just like today is Sunday, but this is not the first Sunday. There was a Sunday last week, and there was a Sunday the previous week. So tomorrow there'll be Monday and Tuesday, and then after that there'll be Monday and Tuesday. So it's a cycle. It's a weekly cycle, and then Monday. So similarly, the creation is a cycle. So if right at the beginning of a creation, who gets what facility? Who gets what body? Who gets what planet? Who gets what quota of karma? How will the Lord decide this? It has been going on. So what I explained is, because it is a cycle, at the time of last dissolution, you may have had a particular status that you had achieved. You may have been a demigod in a certain planet, and then creation, and then the dissolution happened. And someone else may have been a cow in a certain planet, and dissolution happened. And someone could have been a brahmana in a temple in a certain planet, and dissolution happened, right? So at the time of the next creation, not more or less, but to the point of spiritual development, the brahmana in a certain temple will be given that kind of birth, that facility, and the animal in the forest will be given that status that he had achieved, and the person who was a demigod in a certain heavenly planet will be given that status that he had achieved in the previous creation. Otherwise, it would be unjust. Not everyone can start at zero, because they weren't at zero in the last creation. That's the meaning of Swabhava, acquired nature. I had the acquired nature of such and such brahmana, so I'm given that acquired nature. It was kept for me by the Lord. And he has a supreme intelligence at all times to know, okay, because you have to know that the jivas, they don't lose their identity, nor do they lose their pious credit, nor do they lose the quota of spiritual advancement, nor do they lose the quota of sinful reactions. It makes sense? Just like in the case of birth, someone is born, and the birth is a continuation of the previous life. So similarly, at the time of creation, it's also a continuation of the previous life, but it could have been in the previous cycle of creation. Now it makes sense?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
It makes sense.
Right. So that's called Swabhava, acquired nature, and karma. So the Lord's supreme intelligence, he keeps track of everything. Amazing, eh? He keeps track of everything. So that's why when he impregnates jivas, they come with their acquired nature and also with the karmas. And according to the karma, he will create new bodies. Right? So that's an important, and that's why the creation, it's important to understand the creation also, because then we get an idea. Chitra, you have a question? Hello, sir. You have a question? Your hands up.
Yes. My question
You
is
seem
that
to be in the dream state of Lord Vishnu again. Yeah, go on. I'm joking. It's breaking.
Maybe you should off your video so that you can your voice can be heard. Off your video. Off your video. And put off your video. No, we cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. Mr. Prabhu.
with all the ingredients of
Sir Prabhu, you are asked to off your video so that we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm trying to even off it from here, but his network is so bad that it's, yeah, he finally dropped. So we can continue, Prabhu. He will come back.
Okay, Tamal, you have another question, or you put your arms down? It's distracting.
And that is Rasavan Prabhu, actually. Okay, Tamal Krishna Prabhu, okay.
Okay. All right. Chitra, you can just write the question on the chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Write the question and or write it on your, on the chat, and I can answer it. So any other questions related to what we discussed? So there are transformations of pradhana into mahatattva, then the modes are agitated. And the modes are agitated, then mahatattva in sattva generates what you call the chitta, which is pure goodness. But the chitta, which will be discussed in the 4th canto more in detail, rather than the 3rd canto, not included at this time in the process. So our material consciousness, the consciousness that becomes polluted, is actually called the chitta. So we have to understand that the mahatattva is the manifestation of the mahatattva in each individual is a chitta, which is different from the mind, which is different from the intelligence, which is different from the ego. So I'll make that footnote on it right now so that you will understand. Because a consciousness is actually the motive force of the jiva, right? So that is present as a mahatattva. That's why Prabhupada calls it is like the super consciousness, right? The sum total of all consciousness. And then each of the individual souls will be allowed a certain quota or portion of consciousness, which is called the chitta. Yes, Rasaman, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I want you to elucidate a bit.
Can't hear you. You're also breaking.
On
It's
the
amazing,
question
huh?
of eternal time, why is the very I could see Can you hear me now?
Yeah, speak loud and clear and don't move your phone.
Okay. My question is related to eternal time. Why first everything is following a cycle, but time is described here eternal. And then what is the difference between the glance of the Lord, eternal time, and then the Mahatattva? I'm seeing three elements.
Okay, I get it. I get it. All right, fine. Eternal time, in the beginning, it's not differentiated into past, present, and future. So eternal time then becomes segregated into past, present, and future. But time is a force. Time is an energy of the Lord. Time is actually the Lord represented in the material world. So Krishna says, time, I am the destroyer of all the worlds. So there's no difference between the Lord and time, except that the Lord is present in material world in the form of time. That's the first understanding, right? So it is a spiritual quality of the Lord that becomes manifest in the material world. And when it is present in the material world, it is called time. This concept's a little bit difficult to grab. Now, the Mahatattva is the glance of the Lord, the glance, when he glances at Prakriti, when he glances at material nature or Pradhana, the glance, the one glance is time, the other glance is impregnation of the jivas. Right? So the one glance is time, and the other glance is actually the impregnation of the jivas. So when he looks at Pradhana, the sum total of material energy, she becomes agitated, just like a boy looks at a girl, and the girl will realize, oh, that boy is looking at me. So there's something happens in the heart, or something happened in the consciousness. The Lord is glancing. So without the glance, there's no start. So time factor is the pushing force. Okay. So you can ask, for example, I give a gross sort of explanation to it. You can say, okay, when did you start getting attracted to this boy? He said, oh, once he was looking at me. There was a time he was looking at me, so to speak. Right? So you can say time is the look or the glance. So like that. So the Mahatattva, then the Pradhana becomes agitated. Then in the agitation stage, this Pradhana is called Mahatattva because it's a period of gestation. Things start to happen. So it becomes different to Pradhana in the sense. It is the same, but it is called Mahatattva because now it is in a state of mixing of the modes. So the material nature has the three modes in it, Sattva, Tamas, and Rajas, but they are inactive in Pradhana. In Mahatattva, they become active. Do you follow it
Prabhu,
now?
if we understand, then could we say the glance injecting the time factor?
Yes, that's what is that's what is written in the diagram. The one glance is a time factor, the other glance is a jiva.
Okay.
Right? I've said that maybe more than 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the agitated equilibrium state, pradhana, then produces mahatattva, a state which, although has all the free modes in predominantly of goodness and passion, right, now becomes agitated due to the jnana and kriya, the knowledge of the jivas also, and the kriya shaktis, the energy of doing. Because why? The jivas come in with the energy of doing. They want to be active. That's why the Lord creates the cosmic manifestation. They want to act their desires, and they have also knowledge, right? But they cannot act with their desires and the knowledge of actions independently. They have to have facilities created for them. And this is where you will see the Adideva, Adhyatma, and Adibhuta comes in, right? In the Adibhuta, I will go backward. In the Adibhuta, the elements are created, the sense objects are created, right? And in the Adhyatma, the intelligence of doing, the cause of doing, the Kriya Shakti is put into effect. But then the ability for the jivas to manipulate the elements with their intelligence is not allowed independently. Otherwise, I mean, I put it in a very simple manner for all of us to understand. Everyone will want the best for himself, but it is not that everyone wants the best for himself and it is allowed. Everyone wants the best for himself, but is according to their karmas and their swabhava. Therefore, Adideva, the controlling deities, the controlling energy, Adideva come into action. So this is a triangular thing. This is a triangular thing. Now, to be able to understand that, I will share screen. I will create a triangle and I will show you how this works. Then we can move into the next part. Okay. So let me, I don't know how whiteboard is used. What is that, a whiteboard? Can you see this?
Yes, Prabhuji.
I don't know whether I never used it before, so that's not. So I don't know how to, okay, maybe I can put a text here. Okay, let me see. Okay, not bad. But I could draw straight lines. I couldn't draw straight lines, can you? No. Okay, I hope you can get the picture, right? Can you see it?
Yes, we can see.
Yeah, we can see, Prabhu.
You can, okay. I hope it doesn't create more mess here. Oh, what happened? Okay. Oh. So Adhyatma represents kind of the individual souls with the desire to do Kriya Shakti. But to do, they will need bodies, they will need substance, they will need objects of enjoyment, they will need the facility of the world. This is Adibhuta of the creation. But they cannot just, the Adhyatmas, the individual souls, with whatever facility is given to them, they cannot start manipulating Adibhuta, the objects and sense, the objects and the materials in the universe according to their own desires. There is a central controlling agency. Just like you want electricity in your house, you cannot go and connect your wire to someone else's house. You have to connect an agency, and the agency will charge you for the electricity, and that is a controlling devatas. So the Lord here starts to talk about separate individual, separate, I would say individual, separate agencies of control, which is called the Adideva. So that's why you see the Adideva, Adhyatma, and Adibhuta, right? So the Karana Shakti is here. The Kriya Shakti is here. The Kriya Shakti is here, which means Kriya means to do. It's here, concentrated here. And the Karya, the effect, is here. We generate things with it. But there is a knower who allow you according to what you deserve. The Jnana Shakti is here. So they will generate the sense devatas, the 10 sense devatas. And here, the Adhyatma, they will also be part of the pranas, the different movements that is called by air in the body and so on. And the intelligence. And here there is mind, desires, and here there are objects which you can manipulate. So this is generated by Rajas, this is generated by Tamas, this is mode of passion, this is generated by mode of ignorance, and this is generated by the mind, which is actually the mode of goodness. So the mind is generated in the mode of goodness, the intelligence in the mode of passion, and the sense objects for doing in the mode of ignorance. So I hope that you grab this idea. I hope that this is a little bit clear. If you have questions, we can talk.
Trying to digest, there are so many questions ringing in my head, but I'm just trying to digest the description. The mind in the mode of goodness, intelligence in the mode of passion, and the senses in the mode of ignorance. I'm trying to connect.
Okay, I'll explain to you.
Okay, Prabhu.
The sense and the sense objects are generated by Mahatta, the Ahankar in the mode of ignorance. And Ahankar in the mode of passion generates the intelligence. And Ahankar in the mode of goodness generates the mind. Why? The mind is actually a reservoir that contains, keeps, but the intelligence is a doer. And the manipulated sense objects and the senses are actually working under the direction of the intelligence based on information in the mind. So the mind is in sattva. The intelligence, the doers. I'll give you a very simple example. You want to go and have ice cream. Okay? So the desire to have the ice cream is based on an information that you had ice cream before and it is nice. That information is kept in the mind. But now you want to go and have ice cream. So the intelligence has to start working to see how am I going to have ice cream. Okay, the shops are open. Time that the shop open. That's first thing. Now I have to get the money. Okay, I'll get the money. Now I have to get in the transport. So I have to get into action. So Kriya Shakti, action energy, is propulsed by the intelligence. And then now you will have to activate the senses, both to go and to eat and to acquire. So they just work according to the intelligence.
It's clear.
Now you follow?
Yeah, it's clear now.
Yeah, but one thing I don't understand.
Okay, Rastafari Prabhu, just okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask something. I think Chitra Prabhu also was trying to ask something similar to that, because when you started this last explanation, you start from the point of ahankara, ego, false ego, right? So maybe probably you could explain the role of the false ego a little bit, because I think that was what he wanted to know. And the reason why
is like the false ego is like your personal identification number. It's your PIN. Each jiva will have their own individuality allocated to them. And how can that be without ahankara? In the super consciousness of the Mahatattva, each one will be allocated their own individual identity. That's the ego. That's why ego is called identity, ahankara. The aham, me. The me factor, the I factor.
In other words, if I take it from Chitra Prabhu's question, so ahankara is not necessarily negative or positive, it's neutral. Can
yes,
we say that?
Ahankara not, it is false ego when it is involved with enjoying and the facilities created.
It's real ego when it's engaged in its swadharma. And when it's not,
yes.
Yeah, thank you. I think I got it.
When the ahankara is in tamas, the ahankara in sattva generates the mind, the ahankara in passion generates the intelligence. But then if the intelligence is looking upwards towards Krishna, then it will be acting in its right reason that the ahankara is allocated to each one of us.
Very beautiful. Beautifully explained. Thank you. Yeah, that's the one problem. We can go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, Chitra, did I answer your question? He's gone back to Shishupti. Gone back to eternal sleep.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Yeah, go on, Rasavan.
Yes.
We'll wait till the next cycle of creation for Chitra to show up again.
Yeah. What we know from the Bhagavad Gita point of view.
There again, we're in the next cycle of creation come again. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, from the Bhagavad Gita point of view, when Krishna was explaining to Arjuna, he made us to understand that intelligence is superior to the mind. Now here we are understanding the mind to be in link with goodness.
I follow you. Because the mind cannot act without the intelligence. The mind has feeling, thinking, and desiring, right? But to put those things into action, the intelligence is a kriya, the passion. The getting things done is intelligence, not the mind. So kriya shakti is mode of passion, getting things done. You cannot have things done with the mind. You have things done with the intelligence. The intelligence tells you, get in the car to go and get the ice cream. The mind can give you the desire, but to put that desire into action, it is the intelligence. So it is kriya, passion. Without passion, there is no action. So the desire is held within goodness. Quite interesting.
Yeah.
That is a standard question everyone asks in all classes.
I see
Okay.
these things are very, very, very intricate to understand.
Well,
I
yeah,
see
just accept them
if
and
you
then
are
accept
you
them
have
and
been
pray to
able to
Krishna,
understand
you will
these things very
understand it.
perfectly.
So, I have answered, I think, Chitra Prabhu's question. Have I? Yes. Okay. So, Jyoti Sharu, I think between me and you, we have
Yes.
to have sign language because your internet's not good. So, I will learn sign
Yep.
language. Yeah,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Jyoti Sharu. Yeah.
Yeah. Prabhuji, I want to know, according to our karma, we accumulate our karma and our swabhav also comes together. Like, so I want to know that there is 8,400,000 types of species. And we always hear that we have to take birth again and like we have to follow the cycle.
Yes.
So Prabhuji, let's say when we are in human body now, and maybe according to our karma and swabhav, if we get even another body, do we have to go through all the lives, all the 8,400,000, or there is no particular, I mean, we can skip that some particular life and get another body, or we can escape?
No, you will carry on from where you left off. That's why right in the beginning of creation, Lord Brahma creates all species of life. It is not the Darwinian theory of evolution where everyone starts from being the nonsense, amino acids and soup and micronucleoproteins and then unicellular amoebas, and it's not like that. Right in the beginning, you see Lord Brahma, he creates all the species, and all the species are born tasam brahma mahadyoni raham bija pradapita, by the combination of the seed of the father, which is the jivas, and prakriti, which is material nature, right from the beginning. All the species are always there. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, we don't have to go. Like I gave the example of the Brahmana and the animal and the demigod, remember?
Yes.
Right. So you will see that this thing about in the last part of 7th canto and the beginning of 7th chapter and the beginning of 8th chapter of the Gita, you will see that the last part, the last 2 verses in the 7th chapter of the Gita, Krishna explained about Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, Adi Yagya. And then beginning with the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he said, Kim Tad Brahma Kim Adhyatmam, Kim Karma Purushotam Adi Bhutam Adi Devam. Right? So he says, what is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is material manifestation? What are the demigods? Please explain this to me. So you see the concept of, so what it becomes responsible for where we are at, and who controlled what last time and who controls what now. Arjuna asked that question. So it makes sense now to understand Adi Deva, Adi Bhuta, Adi Yagya. Adi Deva, Adi Bhuta, and Adhyatma. So you will look into that and you will read, and hopefully you can understand a bit more. But Arjuna did ask this question about this because he knows that the Devatas, the controlling, the Adideva, the Jivas with their mind, senses, and the soul, and the Jivas, the soul, with the mind and senses and intelligence, they are acting, but they're acting within Adibhuta, material nature, and all the effects of the material nature. Is this okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Right. So, so I've actually covered up to text 28. Okay. So, we've talked about Adi Deva, Adi Atma, and so Now, why is Adhyatma is Karana, is cause in the, I will again share this. Why is it cause? Because here, why is it the cause? Because this is what we were talking about previously, Shalika Prabhu. Now, at this point, the Adhyatma, right within the ambit of the Kriya Shakti, the doing according to the desire and the knowledge becomes a cause now in material nature at this time here. And it is influenced by this right up when it is impregnated, the jivas are impregnated, right? But at this time, the Lord is doing everything and creating the cause and effect. At this time here now, the Adhyatma, the individual jivas, they start to get into action according to the intelligence, the senses that are given, and according to creating the motion, which is done by the pranas, which becomes the pneumatics of the body. All the motion is created by the pranas. So different kinds of pranas are given. So why different kind of pranas are given? Because the body is moving, and movement is caused by air. And airs are prana, different types of prana. So I hope you understand this. And what do we move? We move sense objects and we move elements, right? But it has to have a motive, and the motives are given by the mind and the control of the senses here. The permission is given by the devatas. The motive for doing things is given by the mind. And the ability to move and to do is given by the prana and the intelligence. And what do we move? We move objects, or we enjoy objects is given by here. Does that make sense now? That's why
Yes.
enjoying objects is ignorance, doing things is passion, and having the information and the motive is goodness. Jnana Shakti. Because I want, jnana, I do, kriya. But with what? With substance and items, dravya. Any questions? Dravya means substance or items or objects and sense objects and elements. Kriya means action, passion, and jnana means knowledge of having the information to put into action. So like that is contained in the mind, intelligence, and so on. So I hope this clarifies this section of the understanding up to text 28 and 29. Luckily, my toothache is just subsided. It's a strange thing that's happening to me. I've been taking pills every 4 hours, and but tomorrow I'm supposed to go to the dentist and have it sorted out. But this morning it was strange because the pain had gone from the tooth to the bone, and I've taken, so anyway, we're among friends. So, because everyone will hear it if they listen to this class on YouTube, but the human being.
Sorry.
So sorry, Prabhu.
Chitra Prabhu is here now. Another Kalpa has come.
Yeah, okay.
Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhu.
So, all right. So now we go to the next section of understanding this. So
I think Madhavan Prabhu wants
this.
to ask a question.
Who wants to ask a question?
It's just a little comment, Prabhu.
Okay, but everyone has to mute. Yeah.
Just give me 2 minutes to give a little comment about that. There was the time I had a problem like that, and even the dentist could not remove the teeth. The pain was too much. But later, there was a traditional people around. They gave me some herbs, and I used those herbs, and a lot of germs came out. And since then, I'm not feeling any pain again. Not even the need to remove the teeth again.
That's nice. Okay, let's move on. Hare Krishna. So now we will discuss how the generation of the Tanmatras, and later on the generation of the senses and the devatas. But first we will look at the generation. There's under free categories here, okay? And the free categories here, under the mind, under Adideva, mind and 10 senses and the devatas, the sense of ear, the senses of eye, the skin, the nose, and the tongue, and then the working senses are generated, right? So these are all ingredients of creation. These are all ingredients of creation. They first appear in subtle form. I'll give you an example so that you can understand. If I say, does a cow has an arm? Does a cow has hands? What will you say? Think about it.
We will say,
Yeah,
Prabhu,
What do you do with
has
the hand?
4
What do you
legs.
do with the hand? What do you do with the hand?
Eating,
No, you eat
doing
with the
all other
mouth.
works.
With the hand, you grab things. You do things. Okay? So, does a bird has a hand? Does a cow has a hand? It has a subtle hand because these senses are there. If you give a cow a banana, with what will it hold it? The
His mouth.
intelligence to hold it is there. To take it is there. But with what will it hold?
With the mouth.
With the mouth. So the cow has not been given the facility of the hand in the same sense that you have been given the facility of a hand. But the idea, the subtle sense of the hand is in the cow, but he uses the mouth. To grab in the mouth.
Interesting.
So the subtle senses, the subtle senses, the antakarana, the subtle senses inside, they're all there in all the different animals, but they are enabled to, just like I give you another example so you can understand. I'm trying to impress upon our discussion here the idea of everything is actually subtle first. I'll give an example. Have you heard about the tree or a plant leaning towards light?
Yes.
Right? Okay. So why does
Yes,
it lean
let
towards
me
light?
see.
Because it sees, so the feeling, the idea of the plant seeing is there because it goes towards light to be able to catch the light to nourish itself. So the idea of seeing is also in the tree, but it works in a different way. So that's why I'm saying here that the ear, the eyes, the skin, the nose, the tongue, they are building blocks of the bodies in material creation. Some of them are used more grossly, but they're all used subtly. So therefore, the ear, the eyes, the skin, the nose, the tongue, the hands, the feet, the voice, the anus, and the genitals are all there in the different bodies, but they are used according to their species. But first, the subtle program is there, but the gross senses for making use of the ear and the eyes and the hand and the legs are not given to the same extent in all the different species. But these are building blocks. These are building elements. So the senses are given. Now, this is in relationship to the mind and senses and the sense devatas, which is shown here. Right? So similarly, different possibilities of action according to prana, motive force in a body, and the 10 senses that will act according to intelligence are also given here. And the objects to manipulate are also given here in the cosmic creation. Okay, so I will stop here. I don't know whether I want to, I will share another screen with you for a minute. Okay, I'll stop this share and then I will give some more thoughts on this. I just created, I hope I can find it. Just and matras. Now here. Okay. What we have done here, Prabhus, is actually we've covered up to text 32, 33. Now we're going to text 33 to 37. Okay, now can you see this? Yeah. Hello? Yeah, okay. So here we talk about the generation of sense objects, tanmatras. Tanmatras means sense objects, and gross elements, panch mahabhutas from ahankara in tamas, which you have seen in the previous picture on the far right-hand side. Are you with me? Sarika Prabhu, can you hear?
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes, we are hearing you.
All right.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so now what is generated first in the Panch Mahabhutas means these 5 gross elements: ether, air, fire, water, earth. This is a Panch Mahabhuta. Now, the sense objects that the senses come in contact with are called the tanmatras: sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. So the generation of the sense objects, which means sound, so that the living entity can enjoy sound or use sound for the service of the Lord. Another sense object called touch, so we can use touch or for the service of the Lord of our own enjoyment, or use form for our own enjoyment, or use it for the service of the Lord. So on these 5 sense objects, right? They are generated. There's subtle ones are generated. So here it's very interesting to see that from sound, ether is generated. Right? From sound, the quality of sound, the ether is generated. And within ether, there's the sense of touch is generated. And with the sense of touch, air is generated. And within the sense of air, form is generated. And with the sense of form, fire is generated. And here from fire, taste. And from taste, water. And from water, smell. And from smell, earth. So earth contains smell. Water contains taste. Fire contains form, air contains the sense of touch, and ether has a quality, sorry, I should say has a quality. Earth has a quality of smell, water has a quality of taste, fire has a quality of form, air has a quality of touch, and ether has a quality of sound. Earth has a quality of smell, and taste and form and touch and sound. And water has a quality of taste and form and touch and sound. Fire has a quality of form and touch and sound. Air has a quality of touch and sound. And ether has a quality of sound. So progressively and successively, now I'll say. Now, what is this here? This star here. This is the Lord's glance each time, and the time factor, and a portion of Mahat Tattva. So without these three things, there's no generation of earth, no generation of water, no generation of fire, no generation of air, no generation of ether. But these are the Lord's energy. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 4, Bhumi, Apo, Nala, Vayu, Kham, Mano, Buddhi, Ahankar, Iti Amme, Bhinna Prakriti Ashtada. They are his 8 separated material energy, including mind, intelligence, and false ego, right? We know that, right?
Yeah.
So how is it the Lord's energy? Because the Lord's glance each time at each of them to generate with the time factor and a portion of Mahat Tattva. So earth has all the items generated. So earth, like I explained, has all items generated prior, that is smell and form and touch and sound. Smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. And fire has form, touch, and sound. The qualities of all elements are due only to the final touch of the Lord's glance. So the qualities of the elements increase successively. So this will help you. I will send you this. This is generation of, all right? So this technology of understanding these things, right, is very interesting. That sometimes they were thinking that the more subtle the element has all the power in it. Like, for example, the sound and the ether. How do you think that they were able to move big objects? They made temples. They can carve earth by sound. They can carve a whole temple by mantras and sound. Sound is more powerful because sound contains everything from it is generated. So sometimes they don't realize how was it possible for them to move, you know, blocks of pyramid, blocks of granite of 70 tons, because they were using higher technologies. So Bhagavatam explains all these things. So as we understand scientifically, we can actually understand that Bhagavatam has answers to everything. I hope I'm not digressing, but just impressing upon you that the gross elements have less, and the subtle ones has all the things that involve from them. Just like I given the example of the senses of the cows, right? And the senses of human beings. So you think about these, read through. I will send you some extra notes. Hopefully I'll finish it, because I've been working on these just to facilitate the teaching also for my students here for some time now. So I will send you some more notes, and hopefully you can understand with these 2 graphics, and some extra notes that I will probably be able to prepare in the next few days. So we can conclude here by understanding that the sense objects, the sound is generated from ether, okay? And the sense of touch and sound is contained, you know, within the next successive elements. I know it's a little bit complicated, but you'll get used to it. And if you go through the notes again and again and again, then it will become just second nature to understanding it. So here, the process of creation is slightly different to the process of creation explained in discussion between Narad Muni and Lord Brahma in the 2nd canto, which is also there. But here is slightly different the explanation of Maitreya Rishi to Vidura, because he goes more into explanation of the generation of elements, sense objects, mind, intelligence, and so on. So I hope this clarifies a few things, or actually takes us forward, at least in terms of information. And in a prayerful mood, if we study, we can understand more. Hare Krishna. So if you have any questions, we can take questions for a few moments, and then we'll
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes, we go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah. In the 2 lessons ago, you gave us an exercise. That was the difference between the self and the soul. That was the exercise you gave us there. So maybe we can discuss it briefly. And it's like it's related to what we are doing now. Because when we talk about the self, I think the self is the total of the material elements, the earth, air, fire, and then the mind, intelligence, and the ego, then the soul. So I'm presuming that the self, that's the total being that differentiates it from another self. That's the totality. But the soul is part of the self. I don't know if I'm making any sense, Prabhu.
Prabhu, you're muted. Advaita Krishna Prabhu, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Now you can understand the self more after this. The self is a whole adhyatma. Understanding how the body works. So self-realization means, okay, I understand my senses are different to me. I am the soul. I'm soul. My senses, my mind, my intelligence, and my desires, and all of that forms an idea of the self. So self-realization means understanding the whole mechanism of my material spiritual existence. My senses, I don't want to just use my senses for myself. That is self-realization. My mind, my intelligence. So this whole self-realization, that's why it's important to understand Sarga Visarga. I am separate from my body, but I have to understand how this mind, this intelligence is controlled by the devatas, how my mind, my senses comes in contact with the sense objects. So that is more self-realization. It's a more mixture of Sankhya, Jnana, rather than just understanding the soul. Understanding the soul as my personal, my being, me with the knowledge and the existence and the ananda. But now I'm combined with this whole dravya, the whole kriya shakti and the whole jnana shakti, everything combined together give me a self, which is what you see. So once you understand the whole mechanism of how it is working, you can actually detach the soul from all of it. That's why it's called self-realization, not called soul realization. That's why I asked the question then.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Quite appreciate.
Right? So the senses, they can be, the senses can be used for Krishna's service, or they can be used for our own service. And when it is used for our own service, it is like taking Krishna has given you as a facility to attain him. You're using it for going down.
Sense gratification.
Yes. Yeah. So he says when in the mode of ignorance, yeah, urdhvam gachanti sattvata. It says when you go up, when you go urdhvam gachanti sattvata, or you what is that word again? I forgot the verse. Or you can go down. Yeah. So this is the process of self-realization. So that's why Sarga Visarga is important, because we can understand that Krishna has given us these facilities and he's created a whole system. And by understanding it, you can distinguish your own knowledge, your jnana. Okay, I'm not the body, I'm not these senses, I'm not the intelligence, I'm not none of these, right? And the devatas are working in collaboration with my desires to facilitate me. But I'd rather just serve Krishna and serve him and not use anything for myself. And interestingly, Bhakti is the simplest method, because Bhakti, devotional service, Bhakti, the idea of serving Krishna, can be done with the self, can be done with the mind, can be done with the intelligence, can be done with the senses. Bhakti has the ability to manifest even on the contaminated senses, and then it will purify the sense. So that's why we understand Sarga Visarga. So I hope you understood to some extent the whole mechanism of Sarga Visarga here. Krishna has given us all these different elements of creation, building blocks of different bodies, different types of mind, different types of intelligence. And that's why it's part of self-realization to understand this. So Prabhupada has been so kind to give us all this knowledge here. So any other question, last question, or we can stop? Okay, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Want to kapata rubias chakri person rubias
See you next Saturday.
Thank you very much for. We'll see you again on Wednesday by Krishna's grace. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for being.
I will send you the other file. I will send you the other file. The next PDF, the generation of elements, tanmatras and sense objects. And please go through them. And I will send you some notes by tomorrow, the day after. Read through them and we go over it again next week, and then we can move faster. So we practically covered up text 39, 38.